It's the Pacific Rim Report with Rob York from the Honolulu-based Pacific Forum. Until a few days ago, China has been super tough on COVID, willing to shut down entire cities, telling factory workers they can't go home. So what happened?
Well, yes, as you mentioned, China had some of the strictest COVID measures in the world, willing to lock down really entire cities in order to prevent the spread. And even when other countries had really moved away from this policy, there had been an expectation that the public in China would follow it. And just recently, there have been a wave of protests that have spread throughout major cities in China. It seems to have started with a building fire in a region that had locked down in the middle of November. And since then, it has just continued to escalate.
How many cities saw these demonstrations?
I would say, more than 10. How many of them? I mean, a lot of the information we have is not entirely opaque, but we definitely know of more than 10.
And China has reacted to at least a limited degree.
Yes, and just a couple of days ago that they said they were going to relax some of their measures. They said that the people who test positive or at least have a mild case no longer have to go to these quarantine centers, which are getting a lot of flack for being unsanitary and overcrowded. They've also said that people no longer have to have a code on a smartphone app if they go to certain public places. That's not true of hospitals and schools. They still have to do it there, but other buildings, it's okay.
I read a story this morning in the Wall Street Journal that said apparently a Foxconn representative, the company that makes iPhones for Apple, that a senior official there wrote a respectful memo to Chinese officials saying this is having unintended consequences, one of which is we're starting to look at factories in other countries.
Yes. This has been an interesting experiment on how the CCP views its authority in a lot of ways. They have really clung to these zero COVID policies at a time when so many other countries have moved away from them. And some people have said, okay, this must be an exercise in power for them. But there are other more practical concerns like can their healthcare infrastructure absorb it? Is their population sufficiently vaccinated? Are the vaccines that they actually have working? All of those things are under consideration, but the fact that the people are really rising up in protest against this shows that they feel betrayed in a sense. There's been something of a contract between the Chinese government and the public, which is basically, you follow our directions, we will give you a better life. And now the Chinese public no longer sees the government as fulfilling its side of the deal.
So a medical crisis that's also a political situation and therefore all the more interesting for us to follow. It's 7:47 and we'll have more sunrise for you in a moment.
All right, thank you, Howard.